Or another revenue source would be for David Cochrane to start charging for the water he carries for the Liberal Party. The third way is for me to donate royalties. And I'm announcing that I will do that today. Royalties for all those who copy me, imitate me, or steal my ideas. I think Mark Carney is here today. He wanted to have an impersonator of his own, but then he discovered that Mr. Burns is a cartoon.
Yeah, you got to stay tuned for the rest of that later. We're going to show you the entire monologue, stand-up comic monologue. And by the way, we'll show this again, but that's Mark Carney's reaction to being compared to Mr. Burns. And that is just a wonderful. But we got that at the end. Don't miss it. End of the show, I'm going to show you the whole clip. I can't believe some of the commentary on X this morning about Pierre Poilievre's performance, which was fantastic. And I'm not always all in for Pierre, but I think he did exactly what he needed to do at this parliamentary press gallery dinner, which was to be funny, to be as human as possible, to be himself, and to stop reciting the communication talking points that he's getting. Be yourself. He does have a sense of humor. He has a good communication standpoint. He understands how to communicate to people. That's his background. So stop taking bad advice, Mr. Poilievre, leader of the official opposition, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Stop taking bad advice. Be yourself, because yourself is pretty good at times. And certainly you were at your best. And to the idiots out there who said on X that, oh, he hasn't gone in 20 years and he resorted to sexism and racism. Get off the bus. You people are so crazy. You can't stand humor that's blunt, that's actually funny. And it's so politically correct in your eyes. It's just not even something to laugh at. No, he did not say anything racist or sexist. It was perhaps a little bit honest. But these people with the thin skins, get out of politics. Get out of politics and stop commentating. Stop your commentary on it, because it's useless. So we're going to be talking about a number of things today, but I better do the intro before I forget. I'll be right back. This is David Krayden. You're watching Stand on Guard, and I am broadcasting live from a snowy Ottawa. The snow has stopped. The sun is out, and I got a day of snow to shovel later.
The Prime Minister lied, and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
And we're doing it live. Thanks for watching today. Want to go through a couple of slides here because this is interesting in terms of if Carney is allowed to jack up the industrial carbon price in Alberta by sixfold, 600%, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be devastating. So this is not a good thing. I think Pierre Poilievre realizes this, and I know Jeff Rath of the Alberta Prosperity Project realized this. He talked about it the same day Mark Carney talked very quietly about it. He's not saying a lot about how he wants to jack up the industrial carbon price by 600%. And it's going to be very bad for Alberta. Flawed Alberta carbon tax will likely lead to emissions leakage and potential job losses. This is from the Fraser Institute. Assessing Alberta's climate leadership plan on the criteria of an ideal carbon tax reform. Revenue neutrality? No. Replacing existing regulations? No. Reducing other harmful taxes? No. No subsidies to alternative energy sources? No. This is where 13 industries may experience carbon leakage due to Canada's federal carbon tax. And the only guarantee that Alberta and Premier Daniel Smith have from this memorandum of understanding with Prime Minister Mark Carney is that the carbon tax is going to go up sixfold. And it's not clear who can jump out of this treaty, who can get out. And Mark Carney has not even mentioned a pipeline. If you look at the news release, it's the usual word salad, the weasel words. Pipeline is never mentioned once. Why? Because he doesn't want one. Yeah. Overall, the impact of the carbon tax will vary by sector. Sectors that are more trade exposed are less likely to pass cost increases to consumers. These sectors and the firms within them have to absorb the added costs, which results in lower profits, undermined competitiveness, and loss of investment. Consequently, the carbon tax would likely have a significant impact on the decisions about locating facilities by tradable carbon-intensive sectors in Canada. Policymakers need to recognize that a $50 per ton carbon tax comes with a serious competitiveness risks for many energy-intensive and trade-exposed Canadian industries. Wow. That's the result of all this, folks. Now, I want to say, I talked to Jeff Rath after Daniel Smith's speech on Saturday. And I know some of you thought I was asking the same question too often. But I think it was necessary to say, did Daniel Smith achieve her political goal on Saturday? I think she did. But it's not necessarily going to last. And this is the extenuating problem for Daniel Smith and the province of Alberta. Because clearly Mark Carney is lukewarm at best about wanting a pipeline. BC Premier David Eby has repeatedly said he doesn't want a pipeline. He wants the tanker ban to continue. So how the hell are you going to get the oil from the West Coast if you can't load it on the tankers? What are you going to do? Build an underground pipeline under the Pacific Ocean? I mean, this is why there's just so many problems with this MOU. And I'm not sure it's going to be a long-term, well, I am sure it's not going to be a long-term fix because it's just going to start to unravel. And that's the problem. But I have to say this. It amazed me that Daniel Smith managed to talk about this MOU, to talk about the pipeline, to talk about the agreement she had with Mark Carney without once mentioning Mark Carney in her speech. And she dealt with it right off the bat. And before she got on to the red meat portion of the speech, she assured everybody that this was going to be a great thing. Just let it happen. And these aren't the days of Justin Trudeau anymore. I don't know how many people that really believe that, but they love Daniel Smith so much they're willing to give her a chance with this. That's what it comes down to. If this was a leader who had never done anything politically conservative, if she had not delivered on any of the resolutions from the last AGM, if she had refused to do anything that was in concert, in sync with the grassroots of this party, they wouldn't be giving her the time of day or the opportunity to prove that she's right. They're willing to do that because they really do love Daniel Smith. And that's what it comes down to. Sometimes politics can be that simple. But let's listen how she talked about Mark Carney without once mentioning his name. I find this very interesting.
Alberta is winning, and we will continue to win this battle for freedom and provincial rights, because we are on the right side of history, and Albertans will not be denied our right to a prosperous future. Now, I know full well that so many of you here today have been justifiably, like me, frustrated and angry with Ottawa. I get it. I get it. Trust me. I get it. I hear you. We have been abused and taken for granted repeatedly over the past decades. But my friends, let's not throw in the towel and give up on our country just as the battle has turned in our favor and victory is in sight. It is. It is. Not when our fellow Canadians, even those that may support differing political parties, are nonetheless supporting Alberta's vision for a prosperous, energy-rich nation with strong and sovereign provinces, building a Canada we can be proud of again. Now is not the time to give up the fight. Now is the time to double down and fight for both our province and our country, because we Albertans are indeed the proudest of Canadians, and we don't fight for the sake of fighting. We don't look for conflict when there is an opportunity for freedom and peace and prosperity with our fellow Canadians. That is all we've ever wanted: freedom and peace and prosperity, because Albertans are happiest when we are hard at work getting things done, solving problems, serving our communities, creating and innovating. That is when we are truly at our best. We want to lead this country towards a better and brighter future because we take great pride in that as a province. All we need is a government in Ottawa to get out of the way and let us turn Canada into a thriving energy superpower with Alberta leading the way.
Did you hear Mark Carney mention once? No. That was what she had to do. Because believe me, if she had have mentioned Mark Carney, people would have said, hey, Mark Carney's not our friend. And he's not really Danielle Smith's friend, although the two of them are very good at pretending they are very good friends right now. Mark Carney is never going to be Alberta's friend. Mark Carney is his own best friend. And all you have to do is look at the enormity of corruption coming from this government to say that Mark Carney is not a good bet for Canadians or Albertans. And he's very dangerous. Let's listen to what Ezra Levance had to ask her. And the response was, I think, quite, shall we say, interesting?
I'm Premier Ezra Levant from Rebel News. And first of all, I just want to say thanks to you for allowing a spectrum of journalists to ask you questions that's different than your federal Liberal counterparts. My question is about Nutrien, the Saskatchewan company that chose to export through the United States, in part because of the political risks associated with going through BC. There were some other issues too, but have you contemplated if Premier Eby and the extremists and just the cost impositions of this MOU deter a pipeline from going west, would you consider a pipeline going south through the United States, or even reigniting the Keystone XL pipeline that has not only Donald Trump's support, but allegedly the Liberal government's support? Do you have a plan B?
I don't want to give up on plan A, which is to get a pipeline to the northwest BC coast, because quite frankly, that was the one we always should have built. That was the one that would have opened up the most new markets for us. And I think it's the one that is going to be the most profitable from a point of view of being able to build new lines. We'll continue doing that work. When it comes, there's a couple ways I look at Nutrien's decision. I have spoken with the Heisla band, who manages the Kitimat export facility, and they were disappointed. They would have liked to have been considered on that. I know that they're not that keen on a bitumen pipeline, but they are keen on developing their infrastructure for everything else. So I'll make sure to raise that with Premier Moe to see if there are future opportunities to look at the potential for Kitimat. The second thing I'd say is it's pretty clear that a lot of the problems that we have in Canada are related to work stoppages. Airlines, ports, rail lines. It's been just a rotation, one after the other after the other. And I noticed with some interest in the federal budget that they are creating a mechanism to order binding arbitration with limits around policy and around the potential cost for government. So I'm looking at that legislation thinking if you can get work stoppages completed faster and still be able to have a mechanism to resolve them through binding arbitration that doesn't leave an open end, that may create the kind of certainty that we're looking for. I know that when I was talking with our federal counterparts, I said, you gotta do something, because I felt like every day or every other day for a solid 6-month period, I was asking for them to end one strike or another. So we've got to fix that. If we're going to be a reliable supplier, we have to make sure our supply chains are secure, are truly secure.
Thanks.
I didn't hear a plan B. I've listened to that now 3 times, and there is no plan B. And that to me is a little bit worrisome. Now, before we go on to this, we want to show you the merchandise. And here's some of the stuff we're putting out right now. I'm very happy with these latest stickers here, because we've been talking a lot about psyops on this station, and we had an interview last week with John Carpay. I had to laugh. Somebody sent me a notice on Facebook saying, "Hey, this interview with John Carpay will blow your mind," and it was with a competing station. And I'm thinking, do you watch my material? I did the interview first, but it was a great interview. I encourage you to watch that. It was suppressed like hell. But we are living through psyops. The Big Brother is watching you. And this is another reason I can't trust Mark Carney to fulfill this pipeline agreement. I can't trust this man. This is the guy who's introduced 4 pieces of surveillance, well, 3 and 1 coming pieces of surveillance and censorship bills. They're coming. One, and the Online Harms Act, which will, I predict, be retitled the Online Safety Act. You'll probably see it this week. God forbid if we do, but I'm hoping we don't see it this week. But I'm betting, because these guys are primed for another break, another Christmas vacation, and they're not coming back till February. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? But this is why I think we're going to get this week. What a thing. What a Christmas gift for Canada. And you are a conspiracy knower. And once again, we're continuing to sell the ostrich stickers, the ostrich hoodies. Proceeds to Katie and the ostrich, Universal Ostrich Farms. Get your ostrich hoodie in black, white, or gray. We're quite proud of these. Love the design. The people have really loved these things. Encourage you to get them. Let's go to our merchandise. Go to our store. And you can do that. And these stickers have been very, very, very popular. Once again, proceeds are going to Universal Ostrich Farms. Katie Sidney and her mom. And by the way, I'm not getting any reimbursement or anything from any sort of financial remuneration from any fundraising I do for Katie. I want that to be clear, because some people have been accusing me of, well, I know these are probably, these are bots and these are half-wits, but I'm not getting anything financially out of this except the joy of helping Katie and the farm. And that's all I'm getting out of it. There's no financial dispensation for me for anything I've been doing, the fundraising or any of this. It's a matter of the heart. And these are fantastic stickers, and I really think, you need to have a look at them. Here's Pierre Poilievre's response to the pipeline. And I want to show this because it's very fast.
He can't tell us the year in which construction will begin. Can he tell us in what decade will construction begin on a new pipeline to the Pacific?
We cannot reach our climate objectives if we are not working with all of the provinces and territories. Today, Alberta has committed to work with us on clean electricity regulations. They've committed in this agreement to work towards a stronger industrial carbon price. They have committed to work with us on methane regulations. Those are important steps forward for Canada to move towards its climate objective, and we will keep doing that work.
So they don't know the year that construction will begin. They don't know the decade that construction will begin. And the Environment Minister couldn't even bring herself to utter the word pipeline in her answer to the question. And what today's deal allows a proposal for a pipeline to go to an office in 7 months, which will then be studied for 2 years, after which the Prime Minister will give a pipeline veto to the BC NDP Premier, who's already said he's against. Isn't this pipeline going to be built in the year never?
The year never. That's exactly when if this pipeline is built at all. This, of course, is creating a tremendous difficulty between Premier Daniel Smith and official opposition leader Pierre Poilievre. Who do you think is Pierre Poilievre's greatest provincial backer, or has been? Daniel Smith. Pierre Poilievre's grassroots support begins in Alberta. His seat is in Alberta. And as I said during the by-election, it was a two-edged sword for Pierre Poilievre, because I'm sure at every other door he went to, he was getting arguments for Alberta independence. So this is going to increasingly be a problem. Pierre Poilievre cannot back this pipeline deal because he would be co-opted by the government, by the Carney government, if he says, I'm all for it. I believe in it. It's going to work. So until this movement on this one way or the other, Daniel Smith and Pierre Poilievre are going to be at loggerheads over this. And it's not good news for the federal Conservatives. This is going to be a lingering source of discontent. Let's go to our X page right now and have a look at some of the breaking news there. Because, as I said, yeah, and we will be showing you that speech. This is fascinating. Now, Odessa Orwich reported yesterday that the peacocks at that BC farm, Summerland, were tested by the CFI, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. How do you like that? And of course, I commented here, these peacocks probably owe their lives to the continued courage and dedication of Katie in demanding accountability and real science from the CFIA. Suddenly the CFIA is willing to test? Maybe it's because they look like such idiots on the world stage. Maybe it's because they look like morons. Maybe it's because of their incompetent, grotesque, inhuman, and inhumane performance at Universal Ostrich Farms that they decided to test these peacocks because they just had too much bad press. Not for a month, not for a year. That's too much bad press for a lifetime of an organization. Now, I want to play Andrew Lawton here.
The House of Commons Justice Committee is set to meet this afternoon. Now, this is going to shock you. What the Liberals are trying to do is ram through their censorship bill, C9. This is their so-called anti-hate bill, which the Minister of Justice admits will allow people to be criminally prosecuted for what they post online, bringing in UK-style tweet policing to Canada. The Liberals just want us to wave this through. They want us to give them a rubber stamp, a green light to make this law as quickly as possible, even though we have not had the opportunity to do the proper scrutiny of this bill that parliamentarians are supposed to be able to do. So just to take a step back here, we were supposed to have 5 meetings where we would hear from witnesses who would bring forward their concerns. We had suggested a number of witnesses representing civil liberties groups on the left and right. And 2 of the meetings on this, the last 2 weeks, the Liberals have filibustered it, so we have not gotten to actually hear from the witnesses. Now, why were they filibustering it? It actually has nothing to do with Bill C-9. It was because the Liberals were too busy not wanting to support the Conservative motion condemning light jail sentences for people who traffic in child sexual abuse and exploitation material. The Liberals should have just agreed to that motion, standing up for children, and then we could have gotten back on with our work on C-9. But that didn't happen. So here we are. We have been denied 2 critical meetings, 6 hours of witness testimony, and today the Liberals expect that we're just going to be able to put a big check mark beside C-9, a bill that civil liberties groups have said should send a chill, and does actually chill, free speech in Canada. So we are not going to let that happen. I'm going into this committee room and I'm going to tell the Liberals that we need to be focused on the actual justice priorities that Canadians have identified. Let's get back to our bail study. Police, cities, provinces, they've all been speaking up saying that cities and communities and streets do not feel safe. We have bail legislation that the Liberal government says will answer these problems, and for some reason they're too hung up on wanting to censor what people are saying online rather than actually discussing bail and sentencing reform. So what we're going to do is say that this committee should actually be allowed to do its work properly. And on Bill C-9, we should not even entertain passing this bill through committee until we've had the opportunity to hear from all of the witnesses who want to testify. So stay tuned. Justice Committee today starts at 3:30 p.m.
Well, thank God somebody is addressing this. Thank God somebody is talking about Bill C-9. This is the hate symbols bill. Very, very, very dangerous. And if this bill is allowed to pass as is, it's going to mean more prison sentences, more life sentences, more fines, more criminal convictions for people who just express their views. Because just like hate speech, hate symbols are in the eye of the beholder. Anything can be judged. The Bible, for some people, the Bible is a symbol of hate. The cross is a symbol of hate. Conversely, Jewish or Islamic symbols could be seen as hate by somebody out there. You bet. And this is why, thank God, Andrew Lawton, the Ontario Conservative MP, is actually fighting back on this, because I'm not hearing enough on this bill from Pierre Poilievre at all. I just want to show you this too. This is mind-numbing. Thank you for Karen Hen. Is that Hen S? Yes. Carney has secured 42 contracts since becoming Prime Minister. All contracts have been with Brookfield Management. Canada is being looted. And we went through this yesterday. I encourage you to watch yesterday's show. Very few people watch the show, but it's about how the 2024 U.S. presidential election was not hijacked, was not stolen because of the intervention of a few people, including Elon Musk, to identify the swindle that almost happened. And I encourage you to watch all of that yesterday. And thank God for Emerald Robinson, who has been doing some tremendous work on this. And I encourage you to watch. I'm not going to go recapitulate all of this. I'll be talking about this later in the week again. But this is really incredible material. So back we go. I want to show you how much time we got. Oh yeah, we got time for this. I want to show you Danielle Smith commenting on, I think it was the most powerful part of what she did yesterday.
Stopping there. I'm announcing today that next week our UCP government will be introducing a new motion under the Alberta Sovereignty Within a United Canada Act that will, if passed in the legislature, instruct all provincial entities, including our municipalities and law enforcement agencies, to refuse to enforce or prosecute under the federal gun seizure program. Now, the Sovereignty Act motion will also make it clear that these agencies will not enforce or prosecute Albertans defending their homes and families from intruders. I got a little tip for low-life criminals out there. If you don't want to get shot, don't break into someone's house. It's really that simple, isn't it? It really is. We want our great men and women in law enforcement and our justice system to spend their precious time and effort going after criminals, not farmers, not ranchers or sport shooters, nor Albertans defending their families and their homes. Imagine that, right?
Imagine that. And she talked about a number of other hot button issues. The legislation that she's introduced to protect children from mutilation, to protect children from school boards, to get the pornography out of elementary schools. She talked about how biological males should not be competing against females. She talked about how she really has advanced a strong conservative agenda, and that's, as I say, that's why she got the standing ovations that she did. And any doubt about her leadership was temporarily put on hold because of her strong support for these things. Now, as I promised, we're going to get to Pierre Poilievre's brilliant stand-up routine for the Parliamentary Press Gallery dinner over the weekend. If you haven't seen this, I think you're going to like it.
It really has been a busy time for the Prime Minister in international travel, checking on his investments, trade negotiations. If he's not been fighting for mom and pop shops like Brookfield, trying to get into Gulf states, we haven't seen such an altruistic champion of Canada's economy abroad since the Chinese lent us Dominic Barton. As you know, Chris Stars on this hour has 22 minutes, which is the second funniest satire on CBC after Power and Politics. You know, Chris is actually the most expensive comedian at the CBC, and in fact the most expensive in the entire world if you measure on a cost per laugh basis. Now, just to be clear, to all the CBC staff who are gathered here today, don't believe what you hear. And by the way, when I speak of CBC staff, I'm not just talking about the PMO comm shop, I'm talking about all of you. I never said I was going to shut down the CBC, I said I was going to defund it, which means that we can find some creative funding methods to keep it going. Like maybe they could move their head office to a Caribbean tax haven so that Brookfield could pay for it. The company might have some spare office space above that bicycle shop in Bermuda. Or another revenue source would be for David Cochrane to start charging for the water he carries for the Liberal Party. The third way is for me to donate royalties. And I'm announcing that I will do that today. Royalties for all those who copy me, imitate me, or steal my ideas. I think Mark Carney is here today. He wanted to have an impersonator of his own, but then he discovered that Mr. Burns is a cartoon. But who's ready to tax the tax? Build the homes. Oh, wait a sec here. They gave me my speech for the January Conservative Convention. Jeez, there's got to be some content in here I can use. Down with the out-of-touch elites. Oh, wrong crowd. I know. No more greasy lobbyists. Oh, that's not going to work either. Fire the overpaid consultants. Oh, I see Regan Watts is here tonight, so that's not going to work. All right. I guess we're going to have to settle for some more boring three-word verb-to-noun slogans like eat the food, drink the booze, fake the laughs. But it wasn't just the slogans that people criticized about my last campaign. Look, and fair enough, you know, we made some great gains. We added 25 seats, 2.5 million votes, but We need to get over the top, and that means making some adjustments, some changes, and that means I have to look inward into what changes I have to make. And I've been told since the election that I need to gain those extra few percentage points by being more lovable and human. So naturally, I've commissioned a poll on how to do that, and the preliminary results are in. Option A, I can get a dog, or option B, and I'm quoting the pollster here, I can find more meaningful ways to connect with people on a personal level and make emotional connections with Canadians. So I immediately called the pollster and said, what kind of dog? Now, clearly, we Conservatives do need to be a lot more pleasant. And I hear these reports about people kicking in doors, calling each other snakes, yelling, and I thought, who leaked this morning's staff meeting? But come on, none of you really believed Chris d'Entremont's story about being threatened and intimidated by my whip and my House Leader. Have any of you actually seen my whip and my House Leader? Andrew Scheer has not intimidated anyone in the history of man. And Chris Workington, well, he is so skinny, he's like the poster child for long-term Ozempic abuse. But the whole thing has us all thinking about caucus management. I think that Stephen Guilbeault would actually agree that this is very important. I hear that the NDP actually rejected having Guilbeault join their caucus. What an ego blow. Come on, Don. Is Don Davies here tonight? Don, come on, man. Beggars can't be choosers. And surely Stephen Guilbeault's brand of crazy would fit in right between the delegation of furries and the Queers for Palestine. I see that Elizabeth May's here, and that's great, but I have to say I get a little nervous around Elizabeth because she's a hugger, and of course, I'm allergic to feelings. So we'll go back to the NDP. The NDP does have a table tonight, not a full table. They don't have official table status. But we can't forget about the NDP the way Canadians did in the last election. And isn't it great to have the Prime Minister here tonight? Right here in Canada, of all places. So he's been dodging me in question period, but Prime Minister, I don't take it personally, so let's put those differences aside and let's give him a big Grey Cup welcome tonight, everybody. Well, that was a little bit more kind and gentle than in Winnipeg, where he got more booze than Elizabeth Bay's liquor cabinet. An economist, Mr. Carney, of course, is an economist, and economists deal with incentives. And I understand he promised that the media outlet that gave him the biggest applause would get the biggest bailout tonight. But he is right about one thing. Canada does face an existential crisis and threats against our sovereignty from a foreign leader. Let's take a look at what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a very tough guy who's staring us down and facing us with a number of very big threats. So all of us have to come together and get on message. But the trouble, Prime Minister, is I'm having a difficulty finding out what the latest slogan is. And you know how much I love slogans. And we're all wondering how you went from elbows up to who cares?
Who cares?
The answer is that the big change happened when the president threatened you that if you didn't back down, then he would grab you by the pipeline. It certainly has been a busy time for the Prime Minister in international travel, checking on his investments, trade negotiations. If he's not been fighting for mom and pop shops like Brookfield, trying to get into Gulf states, we haven't seen such an altruistic champion of Canada's economy abroad since the Chinese lent us Dominic Barton. But the Prime Minister can't do this work all on his own. Dominic LeBlanc can't do it all for him either. I think Dominic now has more portfolios than any minister in Canadian history. I think he's just added heritage to it. Prime Minister, give Dominic a break. Please let him focus on the thing that is most passionate in his life, like giving contracts to his closest family members. Before I take my seat and grimace my way through the rest of the evening, let me say I can't wait to be Prime Minister so that I never have to come back to this God-forsaken event. As you know, I've banned all of my MPs from coming to this event, so as soon as I find out that I was here, I will be kicking myself out of caucus. But in the meantime, on behalf of Doug Ford, let me propose a toast to the Parliamentary Press Gallery. Without you, anonymous sources would have to get a real job. So, everybody, please raise a glass to the Parliamentary Press Gallery. How's that for a change in tone? Thank you very much, everybody.
You can't handle the truth.
Resolve to resist. Okay, I didn't hear anything in that dissertation that was in any way racist or sexist. Only idiots can hear that. It is Brookfield strong, and as I say, if the only problem with the Carney government was its corruption, that would be enough to demand it go, to demand a change. But of course, it's much deeper than that. It's the censorship they're pushing on us that we need to push back very hard on. It could mean the end of stations like this. It could mean the end of your freedom to post what you want. And that's the look on Mark Carney's face when Pierre Poilievre mentioned Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Not a guy with a sense of humor. Very, very vindictive man. And here's what Michelle Rempel-Garner, Calgary Nose Hill MP. I wish all of you could be in the room to see Carney's, I'll say it, shit-eating face watching Pierre Poilievre reclaim the Parliamentary Press Gallery dinner. I am so fired up right now. Well, Michelle, when Pierre does it right, I'm fired up too. And I have to say, did a great job as a comedian. For those people who say he has no, he has no sense of humor, it's absolute nonsense. Of course he does, and he proved that on the weekend. So I want to thank you all for watching today. It's been a heck of a weekend, and we're going to keep fighting for the issues that we know are right, and that includes fighting the CFIA, helping Katie out, fighting the CFIA in any way we can, through fundraising, through support, and through continued reporting on how the CFIA is not going to escape judgment for what they did on that farm. We're going to continue to report on those facts. We're going to continue to talk about the censorship bills that are coming down our way. Sean Fraser, Attorney General Sean Fraser, one of the most inept and incompetent ministers ever to litter the parliamentary battlefield, is the guy who promised in September we'd see the online harms bill return. And it's coming back, I predict, this week. It's coming back before these MPs take another long break. And we have to be vigilant to fight it in every way possible. Thank you for watching today. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Monday is always a hard day, isn't it? Always a hard day. But have a great day, and we'll be back again tomorrow. God bless and Godspeed. This has been David Krayden broadcasting to you live from Ottawa. See you tomorrow. Thank you for sharing this station with your friends and family. Thank you for hitting that like button, because I tell you, we are fighting back in a way I've never had to before, because I'm going to keep this station on the air. I'm going to keep fighting for freedom. I'm going to keep fighting for justice and truth. And I am damn determined to resist this Carney government in any way possible, as it encroaches upon our individual freedom. And it will continue to do that, mark my words. I'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place. 10 a.m. This has been David Krayden, broadcasting live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.